Let me try that again. Setting spray, where did you go? Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're starting a new series that I'm calling Easy Eyes, which is pretty self-explanatory. This is really a series that's going to be focusing on breaking down eye looks and doing looks that are a little more simple. The idea behind this actually came from when I first got sick. I think because I've always been an artist. From the very first time I started wearing makeup, I really played around a lot with like a lot of color and a lot of kind of crazy looks that tended to be more involved. And I will say I was spoiled because I could get away with not wearing makeup when I was healthy, and people really wouldn't comment on it, like they wouldn't notice. And because I worked at an arts institution, when I did wear makeup, I wore pretty dramatic, like kind of wild stuff. And nobody really noticed because, I mean, when you work at an arts institution, everybody is a little, right, kind of wild and dramatic and piercings and tattoos and, right, colored hair, that kind of thing. So it's not like I worked the kind of job where wearing dramatic looks to my job stood out. And then I got sick, and I went from being able to get ready to go to work in the morning in like about an hour to needing closer to 3.5 because everything hurt and I moved so slow and it took me so long to get out of bed. And I was losing dexterity in my hands as well. And I'd never really played around with simpler eye looks. I was very spoiled. I either wore no makeup at all or I wore kind of like wild, dramatic makeup. I never really did much like in this like middle ground. And unfortunately, because I was sick, it became very apparent when I wasn't wearing makeup. I felt like I had to wear makeup when I went to work. Otherwise, people were going to comment on how crappy I looked. But I didn't have a lot of like energy to be putting into doing the more involved kind of creative stuff that I was used to doing when I did wear makeup to work. And so it was a lot of like kind of trial and error for me, figuring out simple things that would work, that would be easy. And I kind of hit upon some different eye looks that I think of as like kind of modular, like they're buildable, right? Like you start with the simplest version of it and then you can like amp it out. You can amp it out again. You can amp it out again. And I really liked having those options in my arsenal because once I started doing my makeup, I could kind of judge how many spoons I had in the drawer. Did I have enough spoons to like amp it up to the next step? Or was I too tired? Or was I moving too slow, right? So I thought it would be a good idea to kind of share some of this with you. And then I know that there are a lot of like really wonderful tutorials out there on YouTube for doing makeup that is colorful and complicated and wonderful and beautiful and artistic. But that's not always practical. Not everyone gets to work in the arts, and not everyone has the energy to do those kinds of looks. So I thought, you know, I wanted to do a series that would sort of focus on, I guess you might call them more basic, right? More rudimentary looks. But I wanted them to be wearable and adaptable for you guys, and so that even if you're having like a low energy day, you know, you don't have a lot of spoons, but you still want to put on some makeup, these are very simple things that you can do and still have it look good. So that's what we're going to do today. Housekeeping real quick, if you've not already done so, I would love it if you would take a minute, hit the subscribe button, ring the bell. I'm having a contest for the first 100 subscribers to my channel. All you have to do is leave a comment once you've subscribed in the comment box down below. That's it. When we hit 100, I'm going to be doing a giveaway of a bunch of Spoonie approved makeup and skincare stuff. So please hit the subscribe button. My socials are probably also like popping up down below right now as I'm speaking. They are all linked in the description box down below as well. if you have any questions about anything that I cover or any of the steps that I talk about in any of my videos, you are welcome to hit me up on Twitter or Instagram or wherever. I also really enjoy a lot of the conversations about ableism that many of us have been having on Twitter. I feel like that's been horrifying, comforting, and informative, like all at once. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay. All right, so housekeeping out of the way. Today, I'm going to be playing around with... This is the Morphe... Oh my goodness, what is this called? The 35A? Looked at that before I started. The 35A palette, which is, I believe it's called like the cinnamon palette. It's all brown tones. And I recently just picked this up. This is currently on sale, like as of shooting this. I don't know if it'll still be on sale at Ulta for $12. It's not marked in the, like if you go into the store, it's not actually marked as being on sale in the store, but it is on sale on the website. I figured out that Ulta, tricky Ulta, sometimes they put things on sale on the site and they are on sale in the store, but they don't actually mark that they're on sale in the store. So it's a good idea to kind of pre-shop online or use the app for Ulta, because I discovered a bunch of stuff that was on sale that I did not know was on sale and would not have known because it wasn't in the flyer, nor was it marked in the store. Just a little like tip. Okay. I needed a new brown palette because my old one is expiring. It has like about 3 weeks left, and frankly, it kind of sucked. Like, it was a NYX palette, and I'm not knocking on NYX. It was a terrible palette. Anyway, so I took the opportunity to replace it with this one. So this is what I'm going to be using primarily for the majority of my looks today. In fact, I think this is it. This is all I'm going to be using. You do not need to use a nude palette for these looks. I'm going to talk a little bit about like options for bumping this out with color, but I thought just for this first one, we're going to go with like super basic nude eyes. All right, I'm going to bring the camera in really close and we'll get started. I've already put on sunscreen and my BB cream and my concealer. As I have said in previous videos, if you are new to doing your eye makeup, if you are uncomfortable with eye looks, it's a good idea to actually do all of that second. And probably in some of the other videos, I will show you looks where the concealer and foundation just can last. This one, because we're not really going to smoke it out a whole lot, it doesn't really matter. But as I have said before, there's no shame in doing that later. Okay. To start off with, I am going to prime my eyes, again, using the Makeup Revolution Prime and Lock eye primer. And hold on one second. I need to get my little hand mirror here. I am not just going to take it on my eyelids. I'm actually going to take it into the inner corner of my eye a little bit and make sure I'm getting it kind of like up. Sometimes it's easy to forget to prime kind of up into your crease, and because, you know, the crease actually gets a lot of movement, right, with all the blinking, and that shadow then can either like fade or transfer depending if you don't have a good chunk of primer there. I'm just going to try to really pat this to prevent the wrinkles. Okay, and then I'm also going to take a little bit of the eye primer onto this is just a flat brush, and I'm going to take it under my eyes because I'm going to line my eyes with eyeshadow. And there are a couple ways that you can kind of keep eyeshadow, like if you put eyeshadow under the eyes and you don't want it moving around on you. Eye primer is one of them. The other one is you can always line under your eyes and then set it. The oil of the eyeliner and then the dryness of the shadow kind of like merge and lock everything into place. But I'm trying to keep this as simple as possible, so we're not actually going to use any eyeliner today. So I'm just going to take this real close under my lash line here. And depending on, like, if you know you're going to really, like, smoke it out. I'm not really planning on smoking out the color a lot. You can bring it further down, but I have no intention of doing that. Man, I used a different concealer today. I didn't use the ColourPop concealer, and I, like, really noticed a difference. I got a little too much on this. So if you get a little too much, you can just take your finger and very gently tap under your eyes. You can also take your blending sponge and tap it in. Okay. So the first thing that you want to do is set your primer with a shadow that is close to your skin tone. And I'm going to be using this color called Sand Dollar. I will cut images in of all the colors that I'm using so you guys can kind of see where they are on the palette. One of the things that I don't like about Morphe is that they don't actually, like, they give you this sheet with the names on it, but they don't actually print it on the palette, which just kind of irritates me, but oh well. All right, I'm taking it just on this fluffy brush just to get it kind of all over my eyes, real lightly. Honestly, this color, and I'm going to take it all the way up, right, towards my under eye area and even into my socket a little bit. The whole idea of this color is to just set your primer. If you don't have a color that's close to your skin tone for this, which, I mean, theoretically, you don't even have to use a color that's close to your skin tone for this, right? You could use any kind of, like, lighter matte shade for this. The whole purpose of this is to make blending a lot easier once we get going. So you could use color for this. But if you don't have something that's close to your skin tone and you want that, you can use powder, right? You don't have to use eyeshadow for this. And I'm actually just gonna kind of dust it real lightly under my eyes. All right. So you probably don't notice a difference at all. Which is good, right? I mean, the whole purpose of this is to prime the eyes, right? It's not there to put down any kind of a color. It's just there to prime the eyes. Okay. Now, next, we need to pick a color that's going to go into the crease. Just because you make the decision to work on brown neutral shades doesn't mean that you don't have some choices to make, right? Because neutrals tend to, like brown neutrals, they're either going to be warm or they're going to be cool. And I tend to gravitate towards cooler tones because my skin is cooler toned. And I just think that's, for me, it's a little more natural looking. I'm just, like, swatching these on my arm because, as I said in the video with Chi, sometimes colors are, like, it's always a good idea, and I have not, like, fully swatched this because I just bought it. Colors are a little different than how they look in the pan. Okay, I'm going to go in with this shade called Tan Lines, and I'm going to take this exact same fluffy brush. This is by Essence, and let me just try to show you, hold on, the difference. This one is a MAC. This is my tried and true MAC 224. This is a phenomenal brush. You can see how pointed it is. Now, do you see the difference in the Essence brush? How it's more domed and flat? They are both really, really good for what they do. But this one, I feel like, is a lot more, like, if I want to pick up just color on the tip and put it someplace very precisely and then blend it out, the way this is angled, it's really good for that. This is going to give me more of a diffusion of color, right? Just because of the way that it's shaped. It's domed, so it's designed to shape kind of down in here and just sort of push that color both down and kind of up into the crease area, which is what I want here. So I am going to go in, like I said, with this color Tan Lines, and I'm going to take it. This is what we call a transition shade, which I think like literally refers to transitioning gray up into the upper part of the eye and down, right? Like it's one of those colors that's supposed to draw the eye, right, and unify the look, because it would look weird if you just had like a color on your lid and I don't know, and it just stopped, right? And then you had like another color highlighter up here. Okay, I'm gonna try to keep this in frame so you guys can see what I'm doing, because that's sort of the whole point. Here we go. So I'm just gonna take this into my crease using a windshield wiper motion. And it's gonna, this brush does a really good job of getting it, there we go. See that? Pushed it up and kind of down. Now, this is actually going on a little darker than it looked when I swatched it, which is fine. Yeah, I definitely, like, I got one side a lot darker than the other. Okay, so you can see, let me make sure, yeah, this eye is a lot darker. So this is a good time to go in with another, like, I'm gonna use this MAC brush, which is clean. Honestly, I feel like you could own probably 10 crease blending brushes and it wouldn't be enough, because it's nice to always have like a clean one to reach for. And I'm just gonna kind of go in and like lighten this back, like diffuse it and lighten it back out. Now, I can take my original color, which was Sand Dollar, and blend it as well. So this is done. All it does is like push my sockets back a little bit, give me a little more depth. All right, I feel like I'm blurry. One second. There we go. Okay, so just a little bit of depth to the eyes, nothing too crazy, right? 1 second, and we're gonna go to the last step. So now that the like crease blending is done, the last thing we need is a darker shade to just very gently take into the outer corners of the eyes. And I am going to be using Just Shadow, which has got like a tiny, tiny bit of shimmer in it. It's not like super sparkly. I feel like it's kind of maybe a little more on the satin end of the spectrum than it is shimmer. And I'm going to use a flat, kind of denser brush for this, because I really do want to control where the pigment is going. So as you can hear, I'm tapping my my brush off on my palette. That is just to get the excess pigment off so that I don't get much in the way of like fallout, which is basically, you know, pigment that's coming down and landing on the bottom part of your face. Okay, so I just tapped this on right into the corner, and I'm going to do it on the other side now. So I'm not using windshield wiper, I'm just tapping, because I really want the majority of the intensity in the outer corner. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back with one of my blending brushes, and I think I'm just going to use the MAC because it's basically clean. And I'm going to blend from not all the way out into the outer, but right where it ends to the almost to the center of my eye socket. So not all the way over. And you can do this, right, little swirling motions. And this is just going to kind of soften that transition over. If it's too harsh, which this is blending out really nicely, but if you have a shadow that doesn't want to blend, or you feel like it's like too dark, right, it's got too much on it, go back with your base color again, which in my case is that Sand Dollar color. Somehow I got some of that up into my crease. I did not mean to. Let's just clean that up here real quick. Okay, now I'm going to use my angled brush. This is my Morphe M165. I like this brush because it is incredibly stiff and very densely packed, which makes it perfect for this. And I'm going to load it up with that last color that I just used. And I am going to start at the outer corner of the bottom of my lash, but I'm only going to take it down maybe a third of the way, lining the bottom. So really what I want to do is kind of connect the darker color I'm putting on the bottom, like up into what I've got already in the corner. And then line the bottom of my eye a little bit with it. And what this does is it creates kind of a sense of continuity, so that the darker shade on the outer part of the eye doesn't look like it's just kind of sitting there. And then it also pops out the bottoms of your eyes a little more. Whoa, what happened here? Look at that. Look at that. I made a mess. 1 second, let me clean that up. That's better. I have no idea what I did there. Drunk blending. Okay, so looking at the at my under eye area, boy, I really like, oh, I know what I did. I swatched the colors on my fingers and then I put my fingers on my face. Okay. You know what? We're going to leave that in because I'm sure that's going to be amusing to a ton of people. Because hey, shit happens. All right. I'm just checking like where, you know, the colors connect up to make sure that I like sort of the intensity in the corners of my eyes. I might just take like a tiny bit more in. Okay, last step is just to take a tiny bit of highlighter, and I am using the Wet n Wild Mega Glow Crystal High, which is this one that's from their limited edition crystal collection. And I'm going to take it under my brow bone, just to pop it out, and into the inner corners of my eyes. Now I actually think what I'm going to do real quick, because we're gonna build off this look, so you'll wind up getting kind of like 3 looks for the price of 1. I'm gonna pull the camera back out real quick. I'm gonna put on foundation, highlighter, and lipstick. I am not gonna put on mascara because I need to keep working on my eyes, so it won't be completely like a finished look, but it gives you a better idea. Okay. So here we go with it kind of like pulled out, gives you a better idea. I'm going to go with the NYX, again, this baked blush that's in kind of a peachy color. I will cut a picture of it in. And I'm actually going to take this just a tiny bit higher on my cheeks rather than like straight up apples. Because it brightens up the face a little bit and it's going to distract from the under eyes. I feel like I've gotten used to wearing the other concealer, and now like I feel like I'm really, really noticing my like the greenness under my eyes. I didn't realize how good of a job the ColourPop was doing with canceling that out until I'm looking at it in the mirror now. One of the things, this is a really good dupe for the NARS like Orgasm blush at like 1/8 of the price. I will say it's a little like faint, but it's buildable coverage. So if you're one of those people that worries about, you know, winding up with clown cheeks, this is a good one because that's very difficult. to do because it's the coverage is a lot sheerer, I think. Okay, brush is on. We're gonna take just a tiny bit of highlighter. I'm gonna use this one instead. This this crystal formula, I really, really like the look of it a lot. Like it's a very kind of shimmery, wet looking highlighter, but it's almost like cream to powder finish. And I feel like you either need to apply it with a stiffer brush or your finger, because a regular highlighter brush just doesn't quite, I don't think it has the density to make it work. To like counteract some of that greenness under the eyes. Okay. Lipstick. I am going in with, this is the Wet n Wild Mochalicious color, and I line my lips just a tiny bit with a MAC nude lip liner. Okay. So look one. All right. Easy peasy. Now I'm going to show you how to do 2 other looks based off of this eye look. Very simple. We're going to just bump this out a little bit. Okay. So I'm going to bring the camera back in and we'll do that. Okay. Brought you back. Uncomfortably, oops, let me get into frame here. Uncomfortably close again. So now, second look. Basically, you do all the things that I've already done, but we are going to just change up one thing. So we are going to take the darkest color that you used, like in the outer corner and a little bit underneath, which is in my case just shadow. And you're going to want to use a smaller brush for this. So I either will use my pencil brush, or I will use, this is a mini crease blending brush. You want something that's not going to pick up a ton of shadow and you're going to have a little more precision control with. I really wish that they made, and I have yet to see one, like a packing brush that was like in between these 2 sizes, because it would be perfect for this, but that's fine. I don't know. Brush companies? Morphe? Does Morphe? I don't think Morphe makes one. Morphe, if you're listening, make that brush for me. I'm not demanding it all, am I? Okay, I'm going to just use this mini crease blending brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that darkest shade and, oh my goodness, and I'm going to take it into the inner part of my lid. I am not going to go all the way down like into the corner where my highlight is. I'm just going to take it onto the lid itself. That's why you need more of a precision brush here, because it's really easy to, like with a bigger brush, to kind of spread that pigment around. And you want to go in with a lighter hand because this is a darker color and it's very easy to get it too dark quickly. Okay, so I am just going to take this, make sure I'm in frame here. And again, I am just using a very gentle, like tapping motion. You want to leave the very center, the dome part, right, the highest part of your eye, kind of empty of pigment, basically. This look is a little more dramatic. Oops, and see, all right, so this is a prime example of what happens when you get too much pigment on and you get a little too crazy. You can see how I went too far up there. Nothing to panic about. I am just gonna since I wound up accidentally taking a little bit of this up into my crease, I'm just going to do it on the other side too, just to make it even. If you feel like what you've put down in the inner corners is too dark, or is like on this side it's a little harsh looking, right? Blend, but definitely blend from just the outest edge towards the middle, right? Don't start all the way in the corner, because again, you're going to kick that shadow kind of into places that you don't want it. You want to use sort of a clean brush and itty bitty circle movements, right? Moving it out. Okay. Now I'm going to take my angled brush again. Where did you go? Oh, there it is. Which is again the Morphe M165. And that same dark color. And I'm going to do the inner part. Again, I want to leave the center of the eye free of shadow, right? Just so I'm mirroring exactly what I'm doing on the lid, darkening the inner corner. And sometimes I will even, like, I'm looking at this and I think, okay, I need to get on the top, right? Just a little bit down. I will just use this brush on the top too. Now, if you get too much under the eye, a Q-tip with a little bit of makeup remover, or again, if you do your concealer last, right, this kind of solves that particular problem. I do find taking a lighter hand on the inner corner of the eye to, for whatever reason, be a little more challenging. It might just be me, right? I don't know. If it's too harsh, you can always go in and soften it up. And you can even soften it up. Here, let me show you. Okay, so here's where I'm at. Now, I do feel like it's a little harsh. This is my first time using this palette, and I think if I did it again, ordinarily I do the under eye with the same color that I've put in the outer and inner corners. But I think if I did this again, I would probably take my crease color into the inner corner just so it's not quite as dark. But I'm just going to take a little bit of that sand dollar color that I ran under the eyes when I started out. All right, so all I did was add color, a darker color into the inner corner and into the outer corner. And I'm going to check this. I'm like having a hard time seeing. I'm going to lean over and look in my big mirror, because I feel like, oh yeah, that one side is a little patchy. I don't know if you can you see it? Now, if you've done all this and you feel like the center of your lids have gotten too dark, again, just go back in with your starting shade, which for me is the sand dollar shade, right? And put it in the center. Okay, so here's the finished look minus mascara. Definitely a lot more dramatic than the first one, but depending on your choices, like I definitely went a little darker, right, for my outer crease corners. You can choose much fairer colors for this, right? You don't have to go so dark if you're not comfortable with it. All right, so this is look number 2. All right, last but not least, and this one is, like, this step is incredibly simple. So I'm gonna bring the camera back in and we're gonna do the last, like, kind of variation on this look. Okay, so the last variation on this look is to add in a shimmer. A shimmer is gonna push the front part of the eyes forward even more. And for my look today, I'm gonna be using this color, Rose Gold, which is a little bit lighter. I feel like I wound up going darker than I intended, but like I said, this is my first time using this palette. You can either use a packing brush to put it on, or you can use your finger. Now, this is one of those things that you might need to test out depending upon the shadow. Like some shimmers, they go on great with a brush. Other shimmers, I've had a lot of problems, like unless I use my finger. You want to, with shimmers, you want to tap again. Just sort of tap, 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 tap. And I'm taking this all over that middle part of my eye. This is just going to push it out. It's going to make my eyes look rounder, and it's going to pop them out just a little more. And then I'm going to take this rose gold color, and I'm going to actually use like a mini smudger just because oh no, I have another angled brush that's clean. There we go. See, this is why it's always good to have like multiple brushes. And I am going to pick up some of this. Now, I'm going to see how this works. Sometimes I use setting spray for this. And in fact, I might dampen up the brush and go back over. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to dampen. Okay, 1 second. So much like in the one eyeshadow look video, using a setting spray on a shimmer, right, that really, it amps up the color. You can even just use water. Oh yeah, look at that. Much brighter. So if you put a shimmer on and you don't feel like it's like amped out enough, or especially for, I'm in the line, again, the center part of my under eye, so it matches the my top eye. So if you're worried about that, kind of moving around or not shining enough, just a little bit of setting spray is going to be your friend. So there we go. Just a little bit of shimmer in the center of the lids to bump it out a little bit. Okay, I am going to put on some mascara. I will pull the camera back out so you can take a look at this. Okay, so here is the finished final look with some mascara on. So no eyeliner, no eyelashes, right? Very, very simple. Honestly, with a tiny bit of practice, you could complete the more complicated version of this in about under 6 minutes, right? It just takes a little bit of practice. So if you're super uncomfortable, start with the first one, right? The very, very first one. Do that one for a couple of days until you get comfortable, right, with the shades and the blending and all of that, and then move on to the second one. Honestly, if you can do 2, you can do 3, because 3 is so much simpler. It's just popping a little bit of shimmer into the center of the lids and lining the under eyes with it. I'm gonna pull the camera out just a tiny bit more. I think what I'm gonna do is do this look again with one of my brightly colored palettes, just so that you can see how, yes, this works for like a more modest, I don't even like that word modest, but I guess I feel like that's the best way to put it, a more modest look. Toned down, a more toned down look. But if you wanted to use these techniques on color, it's very easy to do this with color, and it's going to be a lot less dramatic, I think, than maybe you might think it is. So I think what I'm going to do is pick one of my colorful ColourPop palettes, and I will do these 3 looks again. I won't actually demo doing any of the steps. I'm just going to cut in the stills of the finished looks for you guys so that you can see what that looks like. hope this was helpful for you. If there's a particular eye color or like eyeshadow color or eye techniques that you're interested in seeing, please let me know. I have got a ton more of these kind of very easy eye tutorials to do, so I'm hopeful that this is helpful and interesting to you guys. In the meantime, I hope that you are happy, healthy, and well rested, and remembering that self-care is the most important care, and I will see you in the next one. I love you guys. Bye.